get upset on the internet.
Hi everybody, welcome to Retro Station 1989. My name's Commander Dan. I'm the lone human inhabitant aboard the Retro Station. With me is my AI Margot, who runs all the day-to-day affairs and everything aboard the ship. Then there's also Cambot Jr., who's doing his job right now, feeding your wonderful faces, my wonderful face, to bring you License to Play. That's our show about licensed games from the past. Retro games based on things like, books, comic books, movies, TV, fast food mascots, dog food, Kool-Aid. Let's just say that if it had a license and it was a retro game, we evaluate it for you to tell you whether or not it has a license to play. Because if I don't, my sponsors from Planet X may want to liquidate the entire planet. But we'll not judge that by harsh standards. Go back and watch some of the evaluations if you want to have a better understanding of that. Now, welcome to Season 5 of License to Play. And today we're going to study Earth Customs for our sponsors over out there in Planet X, specifically the American Earthlings' love affair with the automobile. Our sponsors from Planet X were curious about our run of evaluations and why only a scant few featured Earth vehicle games, since there are so many of them. And I said that, I let them know that I don't care about cars that much. You know what I mean? I mean, there are a lot of people who love cars, and more power to you. NASCAR, F1. I get the appeal. I understand why you like them. I just don't give a shit. I mean, personally, I don't have a love affair with the car. I'm a Gen Xer. And also, anytime the station's fabricators make me anything, they have to be scaled down to not, throw off our orbit with a bunch of weight. So, I mean, when I tried to make the head of Mrs. Jason Voorhees so that Jason wouldn't kill me, it came out really tiny. I mean, it's cute and all, but you get the picture. I can't have a car up here, so I don't care about cars that much. Maybe it's sour grapes, but I don't think so. I just never really gave a crap about cars. So let's take a look at America's love of the vehicle and get an idea what today's evaluation is going to focus on. America loves its vehicles. So let's go back. Wait, no, not that far back. I mean, not all the way back to basically the combustion engine. Let's start with America's fascination with car ownership, which hit its full stride with the baby boomers of the 50s and the cars of that era. We had all kinds of cars. The Thunderbird, we had the Edsel, the T-Wing, the Kroppenbusch 470, the Millimeter Racing Fido Century 1, that Tucker Man in His Dream car, Fish Tape. Look, I don't know cars. I told you that already. Basically, hot rods and cars featured everywhere when I was growing up. And in that time, the 50s and 60s, I mean, movies produced later during the 70s and 80s, they were the revival of that aesthetic. American Graffiti and Happy Days, and Ron Howard's first flick, Grand Theft Auto. Then the exploitation flicks abound in the 70s featuring Hallmark cars. White Line Fever, Bullet, and one of the best of all time, Smokey and the Bandit. But our love of cars in America didn't stop in the 70s. In fact, as time went on, there were phases we went through. Cars going in and out of fashion. In the 80s, the fastback American muscle cars like the Shelby Mustang, and other cars like the Corvette, and foreign cars like the Lamborghini and the Porsche 911. Those kind of cars were big then. And then in the 90s, we had the tuners, the Honda CRXs, the Nissans, focusing on street tuning and racing, made famous in the Fast and the Furious. And in the late 90s, we had okay, let's talk. Okay, I'm going to come off like a real jerk, I think, when I start talking about the late 90s, because it was the lamest thing since anything tried to be cool and ended up falling on its face. The late 90s gave pop culture a Lou Gehrig's disease level of lameness that could not be cured by any means whatsoever. You thought the Lambada was lame? Dude, there's parts of the late 90s that are just horrible. But hang in there with me, because to talk about today's game, we got to talk about two very specific times in pop culture history that I hate like poison. I'd rather get scabies on my soul. I'd rather get crotch lice in a beard that I don't have. I'd rather grow the beard just to get crotch lice in my beard than live in those times again. Okay, I hate them. And the first thing and time that I hate is this. The 60s. Oh, God, look at this shit. Okay, now I don't hate anyone, okay? I will never hate anyone for what they like doing in their off time or anything. But you have to admit, man, hippies are kind of lame. They're kind of the worst, right? All that dancing and protesting, drug addiction and kick-ass protest music, admittedly, some of it's really great. For what? To have you sellout baby boomers use their popularity like a political club and join up with the very people they wrote their protest songs about. Those evil, greedy corporations. Now they're just an evil, greedy piglet sucking at that teat. And I'm not protesting it because I'm not pretending to be a protester. I mean, and what are they doing this all for? To make more money. Look, these hippies, sellouts to the very last one. And the people who followed them were all pretty laissez-faire about belongings and society, especially when it was other people's stuff. I mean, they were finally snuffed out by greed, but more importantly, by even more radical protesters, like the Weather Underground, and more logical protesters who actually had a point, the civil rights movements based on logic, actual activism and sacrifice, and finally, Southern rock, who, I mean, it's out there, it's a thing, I happen to like some of it, who let old Neil Young know that the Southern man don't need him around anyhow. Thank you, Leonard Skinner, for letting Neil Young know that he could go jump up his own ass, even way back when. And Creedence Clearwater Revival, who told the truth without pretending like there was more than just hallucinogens in them damn mushrooms. Looking out my back door, just look up that song. And finally, punk music took all those revolutions and obliterated them into a million ways to rebel that all meant the same thing. You were just doing it for kicks, and you were not doing it for some real, mystical, world-changing idea. So the 60s hippies were fascinated with making statements, man. And two of those statements are actually sort of interesting, if not cool. First, the repurposing of old buses for new transportation and the adoption of the VW bus as like an emblem of that was kind of nice. It was a kind of ecological message, I guess. The other was repurposing VW Beetles as a statement against American transportation and tradition and the greatest generation, apparently. Their parents. I mean, not the message. The message wasn't cool. It was hog shit. It was a bit of loud, gormless, idiotic messaging for a generation that only defeated the greatest actual evil of all time. It's like, what are you telling your parents, you boomer jackasses? They also provided all the cash for you boomer idiots to lay out funds to buy these VW Beetles while pretending to change the world. Ugh. But the Beetle and the VW bus were cool to look at, fun to drive, and, more importantly, easily maintained without the need for a mechanic if you could find an owner's manual. And the second era of pop culture, I'm so happy, is done and over with, was a blip of time between like 1992 and 99, where the teens of my youth decided that the 90s were just the 60s turned upside down, man. Now, get this straight. I love Pauly Shore and Randy of the Redwoods. But MTV did everything they could to clone and reproduce the 60s itself, but instead of hippies, they'd have consumer versions of the hippies they could fool into control into believing that Woodstock, a spontaneous, filthy hippie festival people thought would change the world, man, was also a way for big commercial whorehouses to dole out some of the shittiest music from the 90s. Limp Bizkit, dude. It's not that they're bad. It's just that they're definitely not fucking Creedence Clearwater Revival or Jimi Hendrix. Right? I mean, I'm of the era that those bands were meant to be popular. And even I knew then, when I saw Limp Bizkit sending little people dressed out like pieces of shit out of a giant toilet, I knew what we were getting right then. I wasn't, anyway, delusioned over that. It was also a place, Woodstock 99, where they could just refuse people the ability to drink water unless they could buy bottled water and had money. And the audience could feel free to throw cow shit at Green Day. No, really. I mean, the hippies at the original Woodstock didn't throw cow shit. They didn't even throw shit at Sha Na Na. And all across the country, Americans kind of wanted people to throw shit at Sha Na Na. Even music took a 60s turn. Now, some of it I actually liked. That Manchester sound from the UK, like and America's version of that, like D-Light, the B-52's resurgence. One dude I'm actually a fan of, Matthew Sweet, they all conspired to bring back the best part of the 60s, the swinging 60s. Mod culture. And Volkswagen pounced on that mod culture nostalgia for the swinging 60s and created the subject of this week's evaluation, the new VW Beetle. This is Beetle Adventure Racing by EA. It came out in 1999 and was a replacement for Need for Speed for the Nintendo 64 game system. This is a great multiplayer kart, alright, with 2-player races and up to 4-player split screen for the Beetle battle mode. This is a surprise for gamers in 1999, and for me, curmudgeon against hippies, VWs, and all their trappings that I am, it kind of shocked me here. Let's take a look at the production for this title and the game itself and see if it's evaluated worthy or worthless. It's going to have a deep sense of worthlessness if it fails. It's not that deep, really. I mean, let's just see if this thing's a hunk of shit. To talk about this game's origins, we got to talk about a magazine. Those things that used to come out periodically, usually monthly, and had something called editorial integrity. That was based on something called journalistic ethics. I know all these are foreign phrases now and have been so variably linked in so many ways to, you said journalism ethics, you're sexist. No, I'm saying I remember a time when magazines were held up as valuable or not based upon whether or not they helped a consumer make choices or identify problems within a subculture. All right? Now, if you grew up with Nintendo Power, but never ever got to read anything like EGM or GamePro, even maybe less GamePro, but more EGM, you may not understand the difference. I loved Nintendo Power. I backed the Howard Phillips Game Master coffee table book recently, and I envy every person who's been able to track down original artwork from the magazine's 24-year run, and I celebrate those issues. I really like them. But I also know and remember Nintendo Power isn't a trade publication. It's not even a media publication because its function is to just sell you on the idea of Nintendo itself as a product. Not the Nintendo Entertainment System or the Super Nintendo. Nintendo, the brand. All right, in a more vulgar way, it's like Game Informer, posing as a trade magazine but working basically as a mouthpiece for the PR wings of all game production houses. Now, that's not to say that Game Informer don't try to have a point of view, but I have a review and a Where the Hell Are We Now report based about the lack of actual game coverage in game journalism today. Even reviews I watch, the only people telling the truth are the people who are too big to tear down via like copyright strikes and stuff. So I hope you get the idea of what a trade magazine isn't. So let's talk about a good example of what a trade magazine actually is and was. This is Road and Track magazine. It's for auto enthusiasts. It's for people who love cars the way PC gamers love lording their superior tech over the plebs with consoles. Tuner culture evolved out of Road and Track for cars the way that PC tuner culture evolved out of PC Gaming Monthly and video games and computer entertainment. It's published by Hearst Publications, owned by the guy Orson Welles based Charles Foster Kane on in Citizen Kane, but said that he didn't and was lying and is still lying about that even though he's dead. And Road and Track has a sister magazine you may have heard of, Car and Driver. These magazines have been around since post-war America. Look at these covers. And the baby boom. And their reports and reviews of cars are trusted for that reason, among many others. So, Road and Track dipped their toes in the video game world in 1992, after the world went banana Foster's apeshit over Test Drive Ferrari. Now, let's listen to the very awesome sounds of the Ferrari Testarossa roaring down the highway. Yes, this is what counted as quote-unquote sound for video games. So, to help with creating accurate sound effects and handling in Grand Prix Unlimited by Accolade, and with engine sounds for Road and Track presents the Need for Speed on the 3DO. Let's listen to that old Grand Prix Unlimited. Woo-wee. Listen to that motor purr. Blah, 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 blah. It sounds like a calculator with the diarrhea shits. It's very bad. But Road and Track presents the Need for Speed on the 3DO was notable for its realism and magazine-style presentation of the vehicles being driven in the game. But Since it's a 3DO game, it's stuffed to the gullies with FMV and things really only car lovers would love to see in a video game. So, when Nintendo finally released the N64, they were interested in EA's pitch for a console-exclusive racing game. Initially, everyone thought it would be a dedicated N64 version of the Need for Speed and its latest entry. However, EA successfully brokered a deal with Volkswagen to make a game about the new Beetle, and thus, a legendary legend was born on the N64. Beetle Adventure Racing for the Nintendo 64, published by EA and designed by Scott Jackson and Scott Blackwood. It's a game with both single-player and multiplayer modes, and is basically a circuit racing game featuring the aforementioned VW Beetles. The game was released in Australia as HSV Adventure Racing, featuring the HSV rather than the VW Beetle. Single player has two modes, single race and championship. Single race is a single-player racing game against computer-controlled enemies on any stage that has been unlocked in the championship mode. So it's like a test your own time against yourself and the computer. However, the championship mode is the meat and potatoes of the game. It's considered the main game, where the players are given 3 circuits, starting with novice, then moving on to advanced and professional, kind of like the CCs in F-Zero 64 or the original F-Zero. Now there's a secret circuit as well, the bonus circuit, which is unlocked after completing all previous circuits. Upon completing each circuit, it opens up new vehicles and tracks, it unlocks a bunch of stuff, and 2 special vehicles are unlocked by completing both professional and the bonus circuits, the Alien Beetle and the Police Beetle respectively. The Alien Beetle's okay, I guess. Its horn says, "We come in peace," in a weird voice. It's an alien voice. The Police Beetle, though, uses a siren, in which all other computer racers must stop and pull over upon hearing it, which is pretty sweet. 4 different types of crates are scattered along each track in championship mode. 3 of them are point crates, which are mostly found off track in shortcuts. The points are used to earn continues during each race, with between 50 and 70 points required to get the continue, dependent on difficulty. Finding all point crates, which add up to 100 in total, gives players a new arena in Beetle Battle mode. Beetle in the bitter batter butter version of the Beetle Battle Bailey mode. Anyway, hate that mode. Upon smashing through the nitro crates, the player is given a temporary boost of speed, like the speed pads in F-Zero. These crates are usually found on hidden paths and beside the main roads, which again, when you're playing against other folks in the racing portion in a 2-player game, whoever knows those little shortcuts and hideouts are the ones who are going to go faster. So it not only is a shortcut, but it's also nitro powered. The 4th crate is a cheat crate hidden on each stage. It's like a hidden VHS tape in Tony Hawk. Smashing one of those, the player hears groovy. Smashing a cheat crate the first time unlocks the cheat menu, which offers cheat codes in both 2-player racing and Beetle Battle mode. The cheat menu has an Easter egg too, and I'll let you go find that on the interwebs. And Beetle Adventure Racing supports up to 4 players for the Beetle Battle mode, but 2-player races can be held in any of the tracks, provided they've been unlocked in the single-player championship mode. Beetle Battle. It's a vehicular combat mode in which players compete to collect 6 differently colored ladybugs, and then race for the exit after they're trying to destroy each other. Throughout this game, it maintains its sense of speed, its polish, in both great graphics and a great soundtrack throughout all modes of play. This game was really a pleasant surprise. It's a game I thought was going to be trash, and it's a game you do well to seek out. It can be had for around $20 most places. But with all of its secrets, fun racing speed and good graphics and music, there's only one question left, isn't there? Moving on to hunk of shit status. So, Beetle Adventure Racing was created for the N64 to celebrate the more curvy and aerodynamic version of the VW Beetle in the 90s. And most folks overlooked it, like myself, as just another piece of licensed shovelware. I mean, Nintendo does have a habit of creating a lot of shovelware for their popular systems. I bet if you asked a bunch of your friends, who designed Beetle Adventure Racing? Their answer wouldn't surprise you, because they'd probably say LJN or Acclaim, or maybe even Volkswagen themselves gave this shit away as part of, when you bought a new Beetle, they would give it to you in the glove box or something. But this game's branding as shovelware, has it been unjustly applied? Or is it a case of what you see is what you get, as usual, and maybe it's a hidden Sammy? Let's find out. Scroll. And that's the question we ask every show, which is, does Beetle Adventure Racing by EA for the Nintendo 64 have a license to play? Yeah, of course. The single-player game is just as hype as Daytona USA or Cruisin' USA or even San Francisco Rush. The hidden paths, the speed of the game, and moreover, the soundtrack put this game pretty high on the Nintendo 64's list of great hidden sandwich games, making it hidden sandwich certified, of course. So, you're welcome, Beetle Adventure Racing. We considered you, and that's why people love cars, by the way, Planet X. All right, Cambot, let's load this one up. And Margot, let's ship this out to our sponsors. Now, there's going to be some changes coming around here that are going to be cool. All right? Cool changes coming. And one of those changes is going to be a show called Retro Rally, which will be appearing live on Twitch and will also be appearing here in clips form. I'll cut out clips and I got to add effects to certain things. Like my pickup videos are going to be over on Twitch, doing them live so I can talk to you about what I found, how I found it. It's going to be fun. If you're not following me over on Twitch, you need to be doing that. That's going to be twitch.tv, hack and slash, backs and forths, Quadrangle Jones. No, it's slash RetroStation 1989. So come visit with me while I play retro video games, modern video games, and we talk about video game news. Oh yes, it's happening. It's the happening spot. All right. So, until next time, remember, no matter what I've said in the past, or what I said during this evaluation, or what I will say in the future, remember to always stay retro. Peace.
Get upset on the internet. You're assaulted.